Hey, this is Matt once again. This is a paid request for Michael Walker. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thought streams, commentaries, tier lists, rankings, video game playthroughs, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. Do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. So thank you for your patience. I'm sorry for the wait. It just took a bit to get through this because there's quite a bit of stuff on this. But he wanted me to look at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trilogy Arrow video set, which was very nice because it gave me a chance to watch this, because I do have a pile of movies and stuff I haven't watched, because I do feel as an obligation that people are nice enough to send in paid requests. I should concentrate my effort on those, which is why I'm uploading 3-4 videos a day. I think that's just the right thing to do. And again, I apologize. Still, people are waiting for the requests. I'm trying to get them as soon as I can, so I've not forgotten. But thank you for hanging in there and for being kind and generous on it. I really do appreciate it. But first off, for those who don't know, I'm sure it's obvious based on my name and if you've been on the channel for a bit. Maybe not so much the third film, but the other two films I love. They're childhood favorites. Won't get too much into the movies themselves because this is more of the box set, not the movies themselves. But I just say real quick, like, grew up with the Turtles. 80s cartoon was my first introduction. Fell in love because I love martial arts. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal when he wasn't a worthless fat fuck, Jeff Speakman, Chuck Norris, Brandon Lee, all those and much more. Being a fan of those type of films, and then as a kid, walking, talking animals, sparks your imagination as a kid, that Flights of Fancy, seems like an interesting combination of the two. And then this first film I did not see in the theaters but saw on VHS, had that VHS a lot. Like, as in wore it out a lot. Rewatched it. Same with the second film. Those are two I like to get on VHS one day. I don't even have a VCR, but I didn't just to have it. Like, the one I had was like the black cover, which I thought looked cool for the first film, and then the second one where the Turtles were in the number 2, which I wish was one of the alternate covers on the second film, but the first film has the tone of it's a kid's film and there's humor and silliness, but it does have that seriousness and bit of grit, the way it was directed, the way it looked, and that had a good balance to it. And most people would say that's the best film of all these characters, and they do have a good point. I would say so as well. I am very partial to the second film. Yes, the second film is more kid-friendly. I understand the reasons at the time, though. And I just think that the suits work well. The voice actors work extremely well. The comedy did make me laugh. Although, yes, it's silly and goofy. It did make me chuckle. I think that one had more interactions with the characters. The first one had some good, really solid moments between Raphael and Splinter, or Leo and Raph. But the second one, I felt them more as a family together as a unit. Little moments, like they're playing that little game of football, or all these little moments here and there, they're just going back and forth where you really see them in frame together. I don't know, just something about it, just they felt more like a family in the second film. And Ernie Reyes Jr. I thought was a good addition. Just like Elias Koteas and Judith Fode were good in the first film. To me, that's a film that's more trying to be in tone with the cartoon, which is always ironic because people always talk about how the 80s cartoon is the best thing ever. And I like the 80s cartoon, but there's other shows I like more, like the 2003 Ninja Turtles cartoon. But they prop the 80s cartoon, but then they get mad at the second film, which is more in tone of the 80s cartoon, which is the thing that you love. So, I don't know. That's weird. But I love both. I love both for different reasons. That's why, to me, they're two sides of the same coin. They're opposites, but they're in the same quality for me. But I enjoy them for different reasons. Third one sucks. Third one is shit. I did watch a lot as I was a kid as well. Try to force myself to like it, because I like the characters. I think there's good ideas, but they're not properly implemented or should have been expanded on. And the suits look like dog shit, and that is a big mistake. Once you saw how these suits looked, should have been like, hey, this ain't working. We can't shoot with this shit. The turtles look like they're dying. They're from a leper colony. Splinter looks like he was dipped in a vat at fucking KFC and came out toasty. And not the Mortal Kombat toasty, but just burnt. Dipped in shit. Las Cortez completely wasted Casey Jones. Came back to be a fucking baby, sir. Also, we could put him as his other character, which is probably why he signed up to play the other character, and then find out give you Casey Jones as a bonus. But then the other character, they just had this thing with April O'Neil, but then they cut all that shit out, so it just doesn't really play off as strong as they wanted, because it's supposed to be the two of them fall in love, and they cut most of the shit out anyway, so it didn't matter. There's a whole lot of issues with it. Anyway, 6 minutes in, let me get into this, otherwise be a longer video. So first up, we have the slipcover. Nice to have this image. I think this is the perfect image to use. Then we have the sturdy box. I do love the green aesthetic, like turtle shell. Bold lettering so you could read it clearly. Nice simple image. Sturdy box. Then all of the little details. For example, you do have posters in it. Well, this one here where you have the first film. Why the hell would you put this instead of the first film? Like, if you put this on a poster, or people really don't put this up instead of this. And this was featured in the third movie. But see, I wish this was the second film that was like the VHS poster. That would have been cool. Where they're in the number 2. Why? I mean, I guess rights. It always comes back to rights. But that would have been better than this shit. Who gives a fuck about this? But this is great. Now, I do have a poster over there that my dear friend Effrey gave me a long time ago. It's one of my treasured gifts over there. I use it a lot when I stream. But, there's still a nice addition in there. I've not read through this book yet, but we have a book that looks like a pizza menu. But it goes through little essays that people have written. Turtle Recall by John Walsh. Faithful comic book adaptations. Sensei and Censor. Just look at some of the contents here. They go through the cast and crew. Then Total Recall. Oh, fuck, I was going to say Total Recall. Different movie that came out in 1990. Yeah, a little behind the scenes. The suits here. Behind the scenes photos, which is pretty cool. And again, I've not read through this. I didn't have time. But one of them is about how there was weird censorship overseas where the BBC, they did not like nunchucks because they felt that kids would get nunchucks and use them. And I'm like, so swords are fine. I damn guarantee they had movies about guns and that was fine, but nunchucks. Oh shit. They even tried to ban in Ninja Turtles 2 when Mighty has the sausages. They try to cut that scene out, and yeah, this one here. But someone told them to go fuck themselves. Which they deserve, and then some. Fuck them. But yeah, got a lot of nice pictures in here. That's from the second film. Here's that from the second film as well. Anyway. Nice little motif to make it look like a pizza menu. Now, in these, you do have... Each one of these have these little cards that kind of reproductions of the trading cards back to the day. So like this has Casey Jones and, well, the 2 Aprils. Some of them have, you know, there's Raph and Mighty in some. There's Splinter. Like here you got Raphael. Michelangelo. They even redid the mistake, and I don't know why they did this. I guess just for authenticity. But in the trading cards, this was a mistake, and they redid it. Like this is Donatello, but that is clearly Leonardo. And see, you can't tell it, but they try to make it look more purple. It's hard to tell here. Like it. Maybe they're trying to be a bit... But yeah, they're trying to make it a little more... Those are swords. Because that's Leonardo. Because here's Leonardo. Now you see he's much more blue. A lot of people like, that's blue. And that is Leo. That is Leo. And then it's like... Someone's like, oh shit, we fucked up. So make this a little bit more purple. But that's Leo. Because Donatello does not have swords. And look at the faces. The faces are the same. So, but I know that was a mistake in the original cards. Again, I guess they either A, were not paying attention, and they didn't want to fix it, or B, hey, they fucked up, so redo the fuck up, I guess. But then if people don't know that, they'll just think you're an idiot and think you fucked it up. So unless you own the original cards and realize they or they're too stupid, they didn't realize it was a fuck up, but they just, yeah, just do it. Don't you want to... Don't you want to make sure? Nah, just do it. Yeah, but don't you want to make sure it's right? We can assume it's right. And then you have these stickers of the Turtles in the third film. Why the fuck you would want these, I don't know. I don't even know why they did these stickers. Who the fuck would want these stickers for the third film? Yeah, let's have stickers of the shitty designs on the third film. That makes a lot of sense. And then you got these two, Shredder and Splinter. And then this little novelty. Which, okay, I get it. You know, it's the pizza place Kino was at, and it's like, get one free. Who gives a fuck about this, though? Like, is anyone ever going to look at this ever again? That'd be fun if you went to a pizza place and they're just not paying attention. Like, they just click the thing. They don't even see that it's not even their own fucking pizza place. But who gives a shit? I mean, this is waste. Gives a fuck. Like, I was going to say, I might as well throw it away, but I guess I'll keep it in there. And then they showed the April and Casey. And then each one of them, they have a little poster. So they have the new covers and then the old cover. So like the third film has the old cover. Come on. Don't rip it. Oh my god, man. Fuck off. What the fuck? Dude. Jesus Christ. Which I'll admit, that was a cool poster. Sally for a shitty movie. But this cover, they cannot make a good cover to save their lives. Like, look at this. This is a shitty cover. Yeah, we'll make it look like a butt plug. I guess it fits with the movie, because it is a butt plug. But you can also flip it, and there'll be that cover as well. I'm not going to put the poster, but the second film, and then the cover for that is this, which is a shitty cover. I mean, these alternate covers suck. I'd rather just do the VHS cover. Just do the VHS cover. Maybe instead of making these stupid fucking Roy pizza cars and these stupid stickers from the third film, no one does. Instead of this stupid shit, pony up the dough to get the VHS covers. Just each one of them. Because I still remember the third film is like the yellow cover. Again, the second film I already mentioned, and the first film, the ones like the turtles and April are at the bottom, and the rest is black. Look at this cover. Look at that shitty looking cover. Just boring. I mean, at least you got the original, so that's good. But they don't know how to make these alternate covers sit. Very rarely do you see like, oh, here's a cover they made. It's so good, I'm going to use that. Rarely. Because if people wonder why folks go to AI more and more, because they do this shit and it looks stupid. AI would do a better job than this shit. Get pissed at me all you want, but they're the one making the dog shit. Blame it on them, or blame it on the rain. Anyway. So to get into the actual releases, the first film, of course, has the most features. Now, picture quality, sound, it all looked good to me. These are the Blu-rays. Now, of course, this, I mean, it does look a bit brighter from what I remember from the original Blu-ray, but that doesn't bother me. It's my fault. I never have the best way of, like, making sure my TV is in the right frame to watch films. So sometimes I want a little bit brighter for my own personal reference, but then it looks a bit more grainy. But yeah, that's not the movie's fault. That's my fault for messing with the settings on my TV. But all three I thought looked good, sounded good. At least to me. I know these were on 4K. I just figured I would get the Blu-ray just because. But if you have the 4K, let me know how that is compared to these. As for the features, you have two commentary tracks. One with Steve Barron, which is decent. I mean, it's decent. It's much more of a technical commentary in terms of like how they accomplished certain scenes with the turtles, how difficult it was with the technology being utilized. Sometimes with these directors, I do wish there was a moderator to ask certain questions. And certain things I wish they would have... Like, for example, I don't understand why Steve Barron doesn't talk about... Okay, for example, the scene that's been deleted, where April was drawing Mighty, and Mighty completely annihilates the barn because he's having a meltdown. That's in the comic book adaptation, and you find behind the scenes photos that they shot that scene was filmed, but he never mentions it. Instead, he's talking about, for 5 minutes, this pickup truck that Donnie and Casey are working on. He tells us about it for like 5-6 minutes. So there's stuff like that, and also he mentions about how he wanted one more week to shoot so he could make it 10% better. Now he's proud of the film. But at the same time, I wanted details as to, well, what did you want to shoot specifically? What specifically did you want to shoot? That's why I did. I wish he had a moderator to push him in these directions and such. I guess I'm talking about I wish I was there as a moderator so I could really ask, specific questions. And then there's a comment. So I mean, it's okay for what it is, but there is a 15-minute interview with Steve Barron. The big information you pretty much glean from that interview instead of listen to the commentary. And then there's a commentary track by, I want to get the name right, Comic Book Expert and podcast host David Baxter. And that's interesting if you want to hear more about the comic books, how they got started, the specific issues. He dives very deep into that, mostly about the first print of the comics. Because it's not until like near the end where he finally gets into the cartoon and the movies, but it's mostly about Eastman and Laird, how they met, how these characters got started, how the comic book era was at that point, the success, the early days of writing the comic, that initial run, the City of War storylines mentioned. So if you want to hear more about that aspect of the characters, that's really what it's for. He doesn't dive a whole lot. Once in a while he'll comment about what's on screen in the movie, but it's more about that. So, which to me I find interesting because, I like those comics, but it definitely gives some info for people who didn't, because there's a lot of people who may watch the film that never even knew it was the comics, never read the comics, never knew about the comics, never still to this day read one of the comics. And that gives you definitely a bit of a initial crash course on it. So that was interesting. So then you have 15-minute interview with Steve Barron. Not too bad. I wish it was a bit longer. But he talks about his early days doing music videos like Billie Jean. His mom, who was in the film industry, and she became a director, and actually they had 2 films. They each directed a film that came out the same year. He did Electric Dreams, and then she had done a film. He definitely gives credit to his mom for helping him get into this career. Worked with Jim Henson, and how that he convinced him, because he had worked with him on this show, The Storyteller. Worked with writer Todd Langdon, who I think was on the Wonder Years TV show. How they took frames from the comics, put on the pinboard, and say, we definitely need those shots in, and then let's craft a story around it. This is where he said, I need another week to make it 10% better. But again, I wish he would go into detail. What did you want to shoot? Like, what specific scenes had you wanted to shoot? They shot about, he says, 4 days in New York, the rest in North Carolina. Then the story about how they wanted one more week. They knew Golden Harvest and New Line Cinema were not going to give them the money. So I think one of their buddies says take it to Jeffrey Katzenberg at Disney and see if you get some money from there. But then Golden Harvest found out and they were a bit pissed. Now, I will say he did not go into the story. I hate to say it, I forget if he said on the commentary. But in the interview, he didn't go too much into the story about how... What was the interview that did go into it a little bit? I think Judith Hoad mentioned it a little bit. And then, was it the producer? Sorry, I'm trying to. Oh, maybe it might have been Brian Henson, actually. Yeah, Brian Henson. Judith Hoad mentions a little bit, and then Brian Henson mentioned a little bit about how the director and the editor were fired by the end of it. Like Judith Hoad mentions Steve was let go, so Steve had one cut of the film, and then I guess it got re-edited, so no one saw Steve Barron's cut of the film. Because Steve just mentioned how he saw it again recently and he was proud of it, but it took a while before he could watch the film again. But I don't remember going into detail about getting fired in his interview. I guess he didn't want to admit that, but I think that would have been interesting deep dive into that. Like, who told you, additional thoughts, do you go to the premiere? I mean, what was it about the cut that was released that you didn't like and you wanted change, or you wanted... I didn't give me more input on that, the process. What was in your cut that Judith Hoad says there was that wasn't in the release cut? I mean, I want to know about those details. But I don't know, either no one wants to push the... That's one thing I will say about Arrow Video that is my issue. My main issue and problem with Arrow Video. Because, yeah, it's cool they're doing a lot of work. It's cool that this box set came out. I do like it overall. It's cool they're going to do Mortal Kombat and other stuff. But no company is perfect, and that includes Arrow Video. And one big problem I have with them is they never do full-blown documentaries. Which, I don't like that. I think these movies, it should have been, and I would have preferred, an edited documentary. Where you take all these interviews, you put it together in a 90-minute... Like, the Blair Witch Project, Second Sight, that had a documentary on it. You know, some of these other stuff. Michael Felsher does it when he does his releases. But it's just nice to have just one documentary. You watch it, it tells the full story, all the interviews combined. But no, Justin Beam and their fucking butt plugs are not tight enough. And I know Sean Clark was talking about this with the guys at Dead Pit. About how they don't want to do that because they want... See how big this thing is? Interview with blank. Interview with Director Steve Barron. Interview with Judith Hoad. Interview with the voice Robbie Riss, Brian Tochi. They make it seem like there's a lot. Otherwise, it would say a brand new documentary. Oh my god, doesn't look like there's a lot in there. Duh. So pretty much saying you're an idiot because you can't understand that when it says a full-blown documentary. Oh, you are getting a lot because it's maybe a 90-minute documentary or an hour-long documentary. But instead, you get these little like 10, 15-minute interviews where a chunk of it is using footage from the film. And maybe it's just me getting older, but when I watch these interviews and these releases, they're less and less interesting, and I go, you know what? A lot of these interviews, I'm never going to watch again. I'm never going to watch some of these interviews again. So then it makes me go, okay, well, I'll get the film if I really, really want the film. And I don't have it, or I want an upgrade, and, you know, curiosity. But, you know, features, I don't know. Yeah, it felt like even features used to be done a bit better back in the day. With exceptions. There are exceptions, but But anyway, the 15-minute interview with Steve Barron, I think could have been longer. It seems there's a lot more details he could have gone into. I didn't like his, what did he want to shoot for that additional week that would have, quote, made the film 10% better. What was the Steve Barron cut that Judith Holt says in her interview? Tell me about the details about the fallout with Golden Harvest, and obviously that's probably why he was not asked to do the sequel. He does tell a story. I don't know if I believe it, but I guess I don't think Steve Barron would lie about it. I wouldn't think. That I guess that editor had went on to work with Quentin Tarantino, and then she had seen Steve Barron and says, "Hey, come meet Quentin." And then Quentin Tarantino, apparently on Kill Bill, was talking with Uma Thurman and said, "Hey, what was her name? I don't know if it'd be on the back here, actually. Sally? I'm trying. They're probably not going to say on the back, the editor. But apparently the line was, Sally made Donatello fight. Now, I guess to be honest, that didn't say Quentin Tarantino loved the film, but I guess you're supposed to infer that. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think Steve Barron is lying. Well, I guess, if Quentin was to tell the truth, he would, like he did about Paul Dano. But I don't know. It was a cool little story. I will admit, it was a cool little story to hear. I'll say that. And they did a fun little interview. I just wish it was longer. God damn, it's already 30 minutes long. Jesus. This would be a long one. Bear with me. So, you have a 18-minute interview with Brian Tochi, Robbie Rist, Ernie Reyes Jr., and Kevin Scott. Brian Tochi was the voice of Leo in all three movies. Robbie Rist was the voice of Mikey in all three movies. Ernie Reyes Jr. was in the suit doing stunts for Donatello in the first movie. Of course, he played Tino in the second film. And then Ken Scott played Raphael in martial arts bits a bit in the first film. And then he did stuff for the second film as well. First off, thank God Corey Feldman is not in this. Second off, it was cool to hear from Robbie Rist and Brian Tochi, because I'm a big fan of theirs. I'm a big fan of their work, because they voiced the characters in all three films. So it was nice to hear from them. It was nice to have them talk about the film. So I did like this. Again, I just wish it was longer, because you have four people trying to vie for time in an 18-minute interview stretch. Which, again, I say 18 minutes, but there's going to be spurts of just them playing the film. Kevin Scott does have a fun story about how he got onto a set by stealing or getting a Domino's uniform, and he stuck in and fooled the guy at the gate. And then he made some connections and got in touch with Pat Johnson and auditioned for him and got the film. And then apparently, because Josh Payas did the voice and did the suit work, but the guy doing the stunts and maybe in the martial arts, there's a point where he broke his nose, so he couldn't do the film anymore. So then Kevin Scott was hired at first to be a foot soldier, but then he got to play Raphael a bit as the stunt martial arts version of the suit, and then he did it for the second film. Brian Tochi, his enthusiasm is very well spoken. That was nice to see. And Brian Tochi, I mean, I still remember him from his roles in Police Academy, let alone these films. He mentions how there were two guys who were hired for Leo, and then they were let go. I would be curious who those two guys were, who would have been the voices for Leo, because I never heard that before. And he tells about, voicing the character in terms of how to do the ADR, pitching your voice. Robbie Rist talks about how he was in a band at the time, how he heard about the project, surfer speech, how he did that, utilized that. How the first film was special because it didn't talk down the kids. Ernie Reyes Jr., I mean, talk about how tough it was in the suit, about how he knew Pat Johnson, who worked on the choreography of the film since he was like 8 years old. Ernie Reyes Jr. knew him from when he was a kid. And it was cool to hear about this. I just wish it was longer. I didn't have all these four of these guys vying for it. I mean, it was still a fun batch there. One thing I don't understand when we get to the second one, if you have Ernie Reyes Jr., why don't you have him talk about playing Tino in the second movie? I don't understand that. It's also sad they didn't get Josh Payas because he was in the suit and the voice of Raphael. So, I mean, it would have been cool to hear from him, but it is what can you do? But it was cool to hear like some of the people how hard it was working in the suits, and then the others doing the voices and stuff. I do wish Brian Tochi and Robbie Riss would have talked about like how the experiences were different with each film. Like, okay, this is the first film. Now in the second film, I think Brian Tochi mentioned in the second film there's a little bit more room for improvisation. But like, I don't know, even Robbie Riss talked about how Mikey tend to crush on Mitsu, and I guess just kind of more of their thoughts on the stories, like their characters, things of that nature. Like, I wish we would have delved a bit more deep dive into it, but still, it was fun to see. God, sorry about the clearing of voice. That's annoying, I know. And then next up, you do have, I thought, one of the better interviews, Judith Hoag. It's 19 minutes long. And that's the thing, like, her by herself is longer than those four together. But yeah, Judith Hoag, who played April O'Neil, tells about how she was working on Cadillac Man, if I learn how to talk. How Robin Williams, he was very sweet, and her getting the role, and then she almost lost the role because of like the scheduling would. She'd be too busy on this film to do that film, but then they were able to work it out. And then she tells the story, which I've heard the story before, but it's nice they put it in there for those who didn't, that Robin asked, well, what movie are you doing? You're leaving on Fridays for. And she's like, oh, I don't want to say the title. She said it. And Robin said, they're making a movie on that? And that he loved the comics and how to get out on Fridays. So I thought that was, again, I heard about that story. I always thought that was cool. I know she's done Q&As where she mentioned how even Robin was at the premiere, which I thought was pretty cool. This made me wonder, like, I mean, if this got known, why didn't they bring him in to do like a character or a voice in one of the sequels or something? But whatever. She tells about shooting in South Carolina, or South, in the South, aka North Carolina, about how they're a bit causing a ruckus, and the waitress told them to calm down, and then they kind of settled down after that. She didn't mention how at times it seemed like the turtles had a crush on her, but she looked at them as brothers, and she as a big sister because of the age difference, which makes sense. Plus, different species, but I guess you don't have to mention that. That should be obvious, but she talks about working with Elias Cortez and enjoyed her time with him. And then talk about working with Steve and how he was let go and that no one got to see Steve's vision. She also talks about how she was she felt a bit saddened that she didn't get to come back to do the role. But they don't go into detail as to why she was in the second film. Some just that the producer said so. But again, I wish they delved more into what had happened. Now I've heard that either A, she didn't really like the tone, the direction they were going in, and thought the first film had a bit more of a deeper connection of family and heart, which I think a lot of people would agree with. Then some would say, oh, it was a pay dispute, she wanted more money, and they're like, well, we'll just get another April and pay her less. And yeah, I don't know the details 100%. Just people say conflicting stories. But that's what I mean, like, delve deeper into this stuff, guys. But that one, I thought it was the most fuller, enriched interview compared to some of the others. So I did like that one. The producer, Simon Fields, 11-minute interview, fucking pointless, honestly. This was a pointless interview. He says New Line Cinema was not going to survive, and thanks to TMNT and House Party, it saved him, which he's probably right on it. But a lot of the information is the same information Steve Barron gave in his interview. He talks about how they had Pizza Hut, Domino's, and some other pizzas product placement. So Pizza Hut did the commercial, which was on the VHS of the first film. Which I kind of wish they had those commercials on here as just a novelty. And the Domino's, yeah, product placement. And he says about how proud he was. He tells the same story Steve Barron does about the Katzenberg Disney thing. No one wanted the film. It opened well. It was critic proof. Information that really I did not know anything more than before I saw the interview. After I saw the interview, I knew as much. There was really no new information. You could have cut this whole interview out. It would not have made much of a fucking difference. I would say of all the interviews, that's one you could pass on. You can watch it if you want. At least you're proud of the film. That's cool, but there's no details you don't glean from it that you don't get from the other shit. Brian Henson, his interview, along with, what's the other guy's name? Rob Teigener, the puppeteer for Splinter and Leo. That was cool because you get to hear about the details on the suit work. And then Brian Henson was also the second unit director. One of them worked with the creature Hoggle in Labyrinth. The challenges, challenges the suit. How if a plane went by, it would screw up the servos. And this is where they mention about how the director and editor were fired. And just again, I forgot, or I did not know that they were fired at the end of it. I guess Steve Barron didn't really want to admit that on his interview. Well, Brian Henson spilled the beans. But again, what did he want to shoot? I want to know, what did he want to shoot? I want to know the details of that. So it was cool to hear, though, about the details on the suit making and such. The puppeteering and how that all worked. Other than that, 12-minute location. They do show the places in New York. Apparently the farmhouse is in Curry, North Carolina, and you did get married at the farmhouse. The location stuff is cool, but no disrespect to... Well, I guess it is a disrespect. Michael Gingold sucks at this. Michael Gingold, you fucking suck at this. I wish it was Sean Clark, but even Sean Clark would say they don't want to pay me, which is a fucking travesty. Pay the man. I know your guy's Michael Gingold, but he has as much fucking charisma as a goddamn Pez dispenser. He may be sharp, but that's all there is to it. It just... His delivery... He has no personality. Like Sean Clark, he would actually get in... And hey, Michael Gingold may be a nice guy. So, he may be a very nice guy, but he's boring as fuck. Well, I know I'm boring as fuck when I do videos, I know that. But again, Michael Gingold may be a nice guy, but he's boring as fuck when he does this stuff. With locations. Just, hey, my name is Michael Gingold, and this is the place here. And, oh, this is the place where they had the movie theater, and Critters is not playing. Actually, nothing is playing right here now. Or, here's the farmhouse, and you two get married at the TMNT farmhouse. And it's like, with Sean Clark, he would actually talk with the viewer as if he was one of us, and like really get into it and get in the detail and like really have a personality and a charm and get you involved in the process, and if it really felt like you were there with him. While this stuff is very lifeless and they go by pretty quick, and Sean Clark really wants to get into the details, and that's why I wish he had done this. And then they don't even do it for the sequels, which is weird. You do it for the first film, but you don't do it for the sequels. So, I don't know why. Like, why do it for the first movie, but you don't do it for these fucking movies? The locations. Granted, I mean, it was cool to see the subway then and now, and the streets then and now, like the building where Raphael was at on top, looking over the city. It was cool to see that stuff, but I wish you had someone like Sean Clark that would better represent it with fun and charm and personality and give a shitness, instead of like a guy just reading from a fucking script. And again, do the other fucking films. That's just me, though. Then you have the... God, this is going to be over a long hour. Oh, well. The alternate UK version. Pretty much anything with Mighty, with nunchucks, they had to use some alternate footage, which was cool to see. Little bits here and there. Like when April invites him in for pizza, the wide shots have Mighty with his, I guess, nunchucks on the side. So instead they use like a close-up shot of Mighty, which I had not seen before, so that was interesting. But I mean, it's the full UK version. I mean, the only difference is that, and the towel says Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. And you could tell, like, the picture quality dips a little bit when those scenes are put in. I mean, it's not worth watching the whole thing for it, though. Alternate Korean footage, it's only a couple minutes, and I guess in Korea they don't like anything Japanese. So then Splinter, like when he talks about his master, he's got to say a different name. That's, I guess, more of a Korean name. And I don't think they could use the word ninja, so they had like Splinter and others say different lines of dialogue. Teaser, a trailer, a UK trailer, which is pretty much the US trailer, and then a UK re-release trailer. Image gallery. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. I'm glad to have it. It was fun to watch. The April Judith Holt interview was the best. Great to hear Brian Tochi and Robbie Rist. It's too bad there's no Josh Payas. I knew Elias Koteas would never do an interview, which is a shame. Steve Barron, I wish was longer. Oh, also they have the extended ending, which it was only on the UK DVD at first, but they see the VHS word print has, I guess, disappeared. Which is weird because it looks like they have it for the fucking, that fucking documentary that will probably never get out. Because they showed footage that was only in that cut, so I don't know I don't know. I heard from my friend Fabio that those motherfucking assholes doing that documentary has footage that they would not allow these guys to get and use. Does this say for our documentary that costs like 80 fucking bucks and probably take another 5 years to come out because we're like to eat dirty ass. Fuck them motherfuckers. That doing that bullshit documentary that'll never be released. Marmor, it'll be 5 years and you still won't come out. Fucking assholes. Anyway. Mark my words. Well, if you prove them wrong, good. Then people didn't get ripped off. But yeah, again, there's stuff to nitpick. Yeah, Simon Fields, who gives a fuck. Josh Page, the last Cotes I wish were on here. Robbie Rich, Brian Tochi, I wish they were longer. I wish Sean Clark had done the location stuff. I wish we could have found more deleted scenes. I wish it was like just a full documentary instead of these separate interviews. But yeah, the Steve Barron one was cool enough. This Brian Toji Robert Ritz talking about was cool. Judith Holt was cool. Brian Henson's that was cool. So nice to have something instead of a bare bones release. Now these won't take too long because they don't have a lot of shit on them, sadly. The second film, which I do love, I like the picture quality, 4K from a 35mm. Did not mind the commentary because there was a moderator. It's a lady named Jillian Wallace Horvat. I could have gotten it wrong, and I could have missed this, but I don't think they delved into the... And I wanted them to. Again, if I missed this, I apologize. That's my fault. But the David Warner character, Professor Perry, the original idea, he was supposed to be this Utrom, this character species in the comics where these aliens that have a human appearance, then you find out there's this alien that's like a brain in their stomach. And they're good. They're for good. And there's a whole story arc with them. But then I heard they didn't do that. Because that was supposed to be the secret of the ooze. The ooze came from space and stuff. But I heard they didn't do that because they thought kids would get that confused and think that was Train from the cartoon. Now, I don't know if they mentioned on the commentary. I did watch it, but this was a couple days ago, and I'm trying to fit all this information there, so I apologize if I missed it. But yeah, this was an easygoing conversation because it was nice to have a moderator move the director along, and that's kind of how I wish we had a moderator for the first and especially the third one. Because the moderator does help to move the director so he's not too dead airish or such. But I mean, they seem proud of. He seems proud of the film, the director. John Duprez to the rescue, the composer. 13-minute interview. He wanted to give like a funk component. He worked on films like A Fish Called Wanda and UHF, and I guess the music editor UHF was working on TMNT, so he got the call for that. And he talks about working on all three films and stuff he was able to bring to each one. I do like his musical score, so it depends how you feel on interviews with composers. Sometimes they're kind of hit and miss with me, but it was cool to see him give details on each of the films, the differences, and approaching the music for each of them. That's why I wish they could have gotten Brian Tochi and Robert Riss to talk about that, any different approaches for the second and the third film. But again, the Kenny Johnson, who is the mold supervisor for 8 minutes. It was okay, but it was similar to the information we got for Brian Henson and such on the first film. He tells us about almost getting hit with a snapping turtle because he had to mold it and use it as a frame of reference for Toka. Tells us about working with Kevin Nash and that he was fun to work with. And you do, again, get a little bit more details on the effects work. So again, some of it's a bit similar to what Brian Henson and such were talking about in the features of the first film, but again, it was okay, but probably not an interview I would ever listen to again. The editor, Steve Merkovich, which I guess worked on John Carpenter stuff. And then he was brought in as a co-editor. He commends the animatronic folks and the syncing of it. Says he worked well with the director and there was really no issues or problems. And it talks about the legacy of the film and it's fun. But like, it's cool. He wasn't trashing the film. He seems proud of the film, but at the same time, there's not really any specific cool story to glean from it. So it's just like, okay, it's cool. I don't know if I would ever listen to the interview again. It's about 15 minutes long. And then other than those three, it's interviews. I do like they put the Behind the Shells VHS. It was I think on the UK DVD, but it was never on a US Blu-ray until now, or a US release DVD was until now, let alone Blu-ray. But I have the VHS up there. The Behind the Shells is when the second film came out. And this one is a little bit longer. It's 20 minutes and 30 seconds. I just see there's little bits here that, like, they show a little bit of the Barbara Walters interview that the Turtles were on, like a little bit. And once in a while there's like a few seconds here, a few seconds there. So I don't know where they got this version. But yeah, I thought it was neat that it is... I can't remember the detail of... let me see if I can find it on YouTube, the Behind the Shells, and see how long that is. Well, this one says 20 minutes and 7 seconds. And then this one was 28 minutes and 30 seconds. So maybe not a whole lot longer. But I don't know. But I mean, maybe I'm just fooling myself, but I swear this seemed a little bit longer. But anyway, it was cool to have that on there on the physical release. But I think it's cool that it's better than nothing. The movie looked good. There's no issues as far as I know. But again, it's like you have Ernie Reyes for the first film. Why don't you have him talk about playing Tino? What led to you getting the job as Tino? How was it playing the character? How was it interacting? Did you talk with them since you've been in the suit before? So is there any advice you could give to them? The legacy when it came out? The deals, because that led you to getting Surf Ninjas. So what that's even crazier is they had him obviously there to talk about the first film. Why would you not have him as a separate interview here to talk about the second film? Because on this one, he doesn't talk about playing Tino. He talks about being in the suit in the first movie. You have him there. Why don't you have him talk about this movie? I don't understand. As much as I kind of don't want to know, I do want to know, Vanilla Ice, I'm surprised he's not interviewed. I don't like Vanilla Ice, but I mean, people would be interested. No Kevin Nash. What about the guy who voiced Donatello? The guy who voiced Raphael? A sit-down interview with the director, Michael Pressman. Or, yeah, I don't know, this one they felt like there are features there, but it just, none of these interviews I would think I would ever rewatch again. Maybe the commentary I will listen to again, perhaps. It's not a must listen. But, people shit on the sequel a lot. You just say it's better than nothing, but yeah, this deserved more. I think this deserved more, in my opinion. So I think this got the short end of the stick for features. And then this one has even less. Commentary with Stuart Gillard. It sucks. There's no moderator. And, how do you not bring up the fact of the effects are different and they look like shit compared with the first two? And I mean, he does get details on work on the film, of course. Like, there's more to the Elias Koteas character, the pirate guy in April, but then that stuff was cut out because, as he put it, people wanted to just see more of the turtles, which, makes sense. But I don't know. I probably would have preferred just a sit-down interview with the director than a commentary. You also have interview with Vivian Wu, 14 minutes long, who played Mitsu, who was cast in The Last Emperor. She was a fan of Golden Harvest. Horseback riding training, another training she went into. She tells a story about how she fell off a horse, but thankfully the horse darted past her. And it seemed like she didn't really understand the success of it, but then she tried to reason the success of the characters, that is. Seems like a sweet lady. The movie's not her fault. And then Sab Shimono is 10 minutes. He briefly tells about he was in the film The Challenge as Buffoni's son. At least that's what he said. He was in a relocation camp in World War II. How they shot in studios. He puts it as this was have fun time. How it's been weird working with the turtles because he liked to connect with the person's eyes, but then the turtles' eyes are just, it was hard to do that. When the bell fell on him and it cracked open, he had that crazy hair. He said that was his decision, his choice. How he tried to train on the horse, but I couldn't get past the walk stage. And how it's nice that people still recognize him for the film to this day. So, I mean, for both these interviews, I mean, they're brief. One's 14, one's 10 minutes. Again, even with that, there's footage of the film put in there. So it's really like 7, 8 minutes for one, and then probably 11, 12 minutes for one, give or take. So, I mean, it's nice to hear from them a little bit. They seem cool enough with the film. Alternate UT opening, that's just, instead of Mighty doing his nunchucks, he's kind of on the side, kind of doing little dance moves. There's a trailer. And then that's pretty much it. So, yeah, not a whole lot on this. I find it funny, they don't have a single person who worked on the effects on this movie. There's the mold supervisor, there's Brian Henson, and that. They don't have a single fucking person who worked on the effects. And I'm like, come on, that's just... Okay, no one's going to be talking trash. Why not? Those fucking guys talk trash in Leviathan Blu-ray over there. The makeup effects. Which is sad that that film, people want, the effects guys want to trash that film. This would make sense. Get the effects guys ordered and trash that. Like, that would make sense. Take the piss out of it. Yeah, we fucked up, I want to know the details. Like, why was Jim Henson's company not a part of it? What happened? Why did he cheap out when it was a bigger budget? How do you not know this looked like shit? But no one wants to talk about that, even though it's plainly fucking obvious. And no, I did not expect that to happen, but that would have been a nice, pleasant surprise. Surprised the sequels at least didn't have some fucking historian commentary. Should have had me on the commentaries. Because I'd be defending the second one and shitting on the third one. So, I mean, it's cool to have as a package. It's cool that there's features on there. The films do look good. It's a nice, sturdy package. Is it the end-all, be-all to me? No. There's still a lot of stuff. Yeah, I didn't. No Josh Payas, no Elias Koteas. No talk about the deleted scenes in the first film. The David Warner, the thing I'm talking about with the second film. Like, stuff like that to touch on. The third film, there should have been some fucking explanation as to why those suits look like that. Someone had the balls to do it. Come on, have some balls. The second film, I think, deserved more features. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff I would have... But I like it. Is it the end all be all? No, but I do like it. I'll put it that way. But I better end it because it's already an hour and 9 minutes long, but there you go. Who the fuck's gonna watch the whole thing? I don't know. But thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.